A very good evening to everyone. I, Kriti Vadhera, would like to welcome all our viewers to CIT NCERT's special live-in program where we talk about mental well-being, guidance to mental well-being of our children, of adolescents, teenagers basically. And to discuss on this, the experts who have joined us today, I would like to introduce Ms. N. Harini. She's a practicing counselor. Welcome, ma'am. Good evening. Namaskar.
Namaskar and a very good evening to all the viewers.
Yes.
And thank you, Kriti.
Yeah, and Professor Rama Vijayan has also joined us from RI NCERT Mysuru. Ma'am, namaskar. We welcome you.
Yeah, namaskar.
And in between this live interaction, if you want to ask some questions to our experts, kindly dial our toll-free numbers 1800 and the other number is 1800 and you can also send queries on our mail address. Our mail ID is ciet.kishoremanch@gmail.com, and to watch the live streaming of this program, please log into our official YouTube channel, that is NCERT official, and there also in the live chat box you can comment and ask questions to our experts. And the topic which we are going to discuss here today is, it's a follow-up session with what we did last evening. And we discussed about psychosocial support for mental being of our children. It's a part 2 follow-up session where we are going to discuss more on this topic. So I would like to start with Rama madam today. Ma'am, I would like to ask that what is basically the meaning and aims of these psychological approach and support? Could you please explain for us?
Yes. And so when we say that is psychological approach, I gave some idea yesterday that it consists of 2 stages. The first stage says that we have to understand the individual, the risk factors and also the protective factors, and based on that we have to plan a kind of intervention. So that all that analytic part that we already taken yesterday, that assessment part, now that we are going to discuss about the intervention part. When we say psychosocial, it has got 2 major components. One is the psychological factor within the individual, how the individual feel, how the person think, both the thought and his feeling, and also the surrounding environment. Always the individual and society or the surrounding, both of them are interacting with each other. That you cannot say it's only individual, or we cannot say it is only the surrounding environment. So in this psychosocial approach, we try to consider both of them, try to think about the possible remedy for those who are victimized to serious levels of risk factors at the individual or family or even in the society level that I discussed yesterday. So now that we can take about what are the aims and objectives, that mainly if we say that intervention aims to reduce complaints and improve functioning, so that we cannot totally remove the problems faced by the individual, but only that we can reduce the complaint and also improve the functioning that related to any mental disorder or social problems. So here that sometimes disorders, it is difficult, that is higher level, but we can think about the problems with personal relationships and also work environment and school environment. So considering both the factors.
Right, ma'am.
So yeah. So this is what we say, that is the aims. And little bit if I say that here that every individual is expected to have a kind of psychosocial adaptation. But sometimes the individual may experience difficulty. So this psychosocial approach will help in achieve good fitness in the personal social congruence, means there should be kind of harmony, that is also known as adjustment. It is not only intrapsychic, what we say within the individual, and also the external, the state of wisdom. So that means whatever we do, that there should be some kind of rational and reasoning, so that we will maintain some kind of equilibrium. This is what that psychosocial support. It considers both of them benefit of the receiver's ability to cope with the problems faced. So now that we are talking about COVID related problems, whatever problem arises due to that, and also we discuss various challenges and burdens, this approach is going to help them to reduce the problems and face the situation in a better manner.
Right, ma'am, right. Ma'am, as you said that we are particularly discussing about the COVID-19 period and the stress and anxiety faced by our children. So I would like to ask you that at times we come across these terminologies of psychology as what typical and atypical anxiety. So what are the symptoms of these typical and atypical anxieties?
Okay. So here, of course, that before that, I would like to say that it is not only the anxiety which is a result of the situation. There will be depression and also OCD, what we called obsessive compulsive disorder and all. But today's presentation, we are mainly discussing about anxiety, which is much more common. So before going to that is typical and atypical, I would like to tell that what are the symptoms of that anxiety itself, what the person has to do. First of all, the individual has to follow the various physical precautions guidelines, which is there everywhere. What to do, we are not going to do. That the individual has to take care of the psychological well-being. So what he has to do, that he has to understand his stress and also the anxiety, and monitor the anxiety level when the anxiety increases, and also whether that one, everybody has to understand anxiety is a normal response to any stressful situation, and we have got the ability to adapt to that. Nobody is totally having a zero that anxiety. Some amount of anxiety is always good, that will help us to cope with the situation. But if it increases beyond that, there will be a lot of changes in the chemical level, brain level, so that will lead to some kind of unproductiveness. So we should know the difference between typical and atypical stress. So that I would like to tell about the difference between this. Next slide. Yeah. So that here, when I say typical stress reaction, it includes temporary difficulty in concentration. Here we have to consider not only the intensity and also the duration. All of us we are subjected to some kind of anxiety, but it is only temporary. In difficulty in concentrating, lot of work is there. We know that we have to complete, but we cannot concentrate. It need not be academic, it can be anything. And without any reason, we get irritated, and we sometimes we develop some kind of anger, and we throw the anger, and we feel tired. There will be some kind of stomach ache and difficulty in sleeping, etc. But these are all normal. Sometimes it may go on its own. But when it comes to atypical stress, here it becomes persistent. Anything the longer duration beyond some time, and also the excessive worry, that here intensity and also the duration that does not lift and keeps you. That means that whatever that you want to do every day, that is coming the way of that. So in this, that individual will experience significant changes in energy level. The person who is very energetic physically or mentally is that feels very low, and his eating pattern and sleeping pattern also changes. As I told, that concentration becomes very difficult, because concentration needs higher energy level at the mental level. That is not possible. That emotions come in the way of our concentration, and prolonged and overwhelming worry. Always the individual will be that worrying about something. He feels more hopelessness. That nothing is under my control. Some kind of lack of self-efficacy, or thoughts of self-injury or suicide. Some of the people, they try to hit their head or the bang something, or try to commit even suicide also. So at that time, the individual has to seek some kind of immediate help from the professionals. That's why it is necessary to understand what is typical and also atypical anxiety.
Yes, ma'am. And now I would like Miss Harani to come up in the discussion. And ma'am, as we have discussed about the anxiety and stress level of our children and adolescents who are facing in this COVID-19, so can you please give us some tips to our children and adolescents and teenagers, that how can they manage their stress and anxiety?
Yeah, Kriti. I think before I go on with the tips for the management of stress and anxiety, I thought I would just add on to what Rama Madam was telling.
Yes, sure.
In the present scenario which is prevailing globally because of this COVID-19, we can't deny the fact that student community is totally confused with this new normal they are into. They are totally confused because they are going to deal with the stress the maximum.
Right.
They are having put in such a situation that they have to understand, absorb, and deal the changes that this COVID-19 is bringing into the world. And we can't deny the fact that they are off their schools. The schools are closed. This is adding to their anxiety level. They are not in constant touch with their peer group. The interaction is almost coming down to zero. So with all this, my student community is totally frustrated, clueless about what to do. And this I am able to experience every day in my class when I meet them virtually. This confusion is prevailing day in and day out.
Right.
Though they are connected with us academically for a few hours, but still the confusion is persisting. So I think I'm going to address my student community now with a few tips, which most of them may be following, but still to bring it to their attention once again, I have a few simple tips my students can follow, especially the adolescents. The first one is to practice good self-care. They should have that self-care which is to be taken. That is, they should sleep adequately first. There may be frustration, there may be anxiety because it is a new normal for every one of us. So children, of course, are more confused about it. So they should sleep well, they should have good and healthy food, and they should also reduce their screen time because most of the time they are virtually connected to each other in various ways. So this is the first thing that they have to do. The second tip that I would give them was virtually reach out to different types of support networks. The best support network a student community can have is their family. The family is the first support network which can help them. Then of course they will have their friends. Then moving on, maybe some social organizations which are operating in their immediate environment, they could rely on them. So once they start connecting with them virtually, because that is the only means now, I think they get some kind of relaxation from the loneliness they are having because they are locked inside the house. So by doing so, they will be able to slightly reduce their anxiety level. The next step I would tell them is to find meaningful tasks to channel their anxiety. So meaningful channels is the best thing. They are small little hobbies that they have. They can nurture them now because they have empty time, plenty of time with them now because they are in their homes. So they can take up those hobbies which were in the background because of their academic indulgence greatly. So they can now start accounting on those hobbies which will help them to relieve their anxiety to some extent. Recall some positive moments and stay optimistic. There are always certain positive moments which happen in everyday course that they do. Anything that happens at home, a very small positive event, they should be able to take it up, cherish it, and stay optimistic with it. Discuss it with their relatives or friends and feel elated about it. This is one tip which will be useful. Then the next one is practice mindfulness when managing anxiety. This mindfulness tools like simple breathing exercises can be taken. Some sensory modulation can be taken up. So all this will be able to help them manage their anxiety, and a little guiding exercises, a little physical activity can be introduced in their routines deliberately to make them relaxed over their anxiety that they are feeling. So these are small little tips I think, Kriti, I can give to my students.
Ji, sure, Harini ma'am. And now again I would like to ask Rama madam, as whatever madam Harini madam has explained our students and viewers. Ma'am, can you please give us some tips to manage this stress and anxiety among children who are already getting these mental health services? Can there be some tips for those?
Yes. That yesterday when we listed out various risk factors, we already understood that is the pre-existing some mental problems also one of the major positive factor here. That all the individual may not have atypical anxiety because of that is anxiety, COVID situation. Sometimes we can say already it is there that they have some kind of generalized anxiety wherein that they will react to everything in a very sensitive manner. So that there sometimes they might have been already identified by somebody, and they might have been referred to some professionals, or sometimes that they are experiencing might not have gone so far to anybody. So what has to be done now? Because that they are the persons who can get into that typical anxiety, and that may lead to various things. Here I would like to just before going to the tips, one or two cases wherein that that some adults only called me and they were expressing that their concern even to go to office. So I am so much having a worry in some cases. Now that I got some kind of job, I am not in a position to go. So that there are some individuals that who want to stay inside only, they don't want to go outside. There is so much worried, it is coming in the way of their present functioning and the future also. So from that, what I can say, if but all we come across some individual or the individual himself realizes that his anxiety is exceeding beyond a limit, and also that time frame, that he should approach a mental health provider. So he should not have any hesitation. In our country, approaching a counselor or even a psychologist is still a taboo, and there is some kind of stigma. But at this situation, it is better if they overcome that kind of stigma, and they should consider it one of the common reaction of an individual, and they should consult a that is mental health provider like a psychologist, or if necessary, they may refer them to a psychiatrist. Then that they should think about certain coping skills, and also as told that is the mindful, whatever they do, that they have to be totally involved, and they should be able to enjoy that coping skill, that which they consider that all these days that they were managing. So like that, otherwise it leads to some kind of harmful that is effect on them. So here, what are the coping skills? Most of us have got some kind of inherent coping skills that it may work sometime or it may not work. But what are the things? When we get anxiety, sometimes we would like to go that remove that idea or the feeling which is causing anxiety to us. So one way of that is a distraction from the source of that anxiety. So like for example, listening to music, many people would like to listen, or walking outside, or reframing your thoughts. Instead of thinking about what is bothering, they can think something which is more pleasant and which is more positive. And then connecting with others are helpful. Just pick up a phone or anything and talking to somebody with whom they can easily connect, and who can easily spare their time for them. Think about different ways of incorporating those things. And also that if they are suffering from the that ideas again and again, recurrent ideas of self-injury, some people know that they have already have some kind of personality disorders. Like one of them, I'm not going to the details, maybe sometime later, like borderline personality disorder, wherein they can't control their emotions. They can even cut their hand with their knife, or that try to that bite. So self-injuries, it's not necessary they have to be mentally totally disturbed, or that is they are mentally retarded or intellectually disabled. They also have self-injury, substance abuse. This is quite common. You all noticed how the persons who are addicted to some kind of alcohol and other thing, they struggled when bars were closed. They are the happy people when unlock was done. So this shows that is, or that someday may have some kind of drug addiction, etc. So that they should not have such kind of thing. And then, as I told, that we have to work with the mental health providers, particularly who can understand your situation, give practical guidelines. And also that is, you have to, if necessary, you may have to take some kind of medicine. You should not have any kind of thing, whether it will become some kind of addiction further and all. So what is important now, that we should be able to that cope up with our anxiety, and slowly that we will learn certain coping skills and we can overcome that. And also seek a positive peer support. So this is another important thing. So we have to have a group of people. Now that what is happening, our family system, nuclear family, and so many things are there. But now, at least during this time, many peers who are in a position to cope up with their anxiety should come in to support those people. and also social distance increasing that one. But social distance doesn't mean that is totally the psychologically they are distanced. So social distance and psychological distance are
Right.
different. Always
So as
correct.
we've discussed about the anxiety prevailing in the pre-existing disorders which children are facing, Harini ma'am, I would like to ask you that can you please share some tips, because at this point of time parents are the only ones who are facing these sorts of problems. So can you please share some tips for
Yes,
parents
yes, Kriti,
who
yeah.
can
I think
cope
next-
up with these pre-existing
Yes.
disorders of the children?
Yes, yes. Next is the parent community whom I would like to address. So there are certain tips that they have to follow. Most of the parents might be following it, but quickly I'll just go through the tips that I have for them.
Yes.
I would suggest that they rehearse their scripts for talking to their kids about COVID-19, because everything cannot be spoken to the child as it is. Whether it's a child or as an adolescent, the parent should know how much to talk. So that is one thing they have to rehearse before they talk to them.
Right.
Second, I would say talk about the situation openly. Just not try to hide things from them, but that they are already getting information about. So they should be more open, and then children should have that faith that they can come back and talk to their parents about this situation that they are listening from various resources. Then don't give more information than is requested. The child may be seeking some information and we may have lots of information, but in a hurry we are not supposed to give in all the information as it is. Just react to what they are asking and stop there. I think that will reduce the confusion that we would be creating further. Let them know you are open to more questions. This faith we have to create in the child so that they come back to us when there is a crisis or there is a kind of frustration that they are undergoing. Reassure your child that it is normal to feel scared and anxious. This is very important for a parent, because there is anxiety everywhere in the present normal. So we have to reassure our children that it is very, very normal to be anxious and fearful. So consider limiting media exposure or consuming media with your child. So be with your child when they are consuming the media from various resources, so that you are there to monitor what they are viewing and how much they understand of what they are viewing. Keep as many routines intact as possible, because already their routine of schooling is lost. So at least the remaining routines which are followed at home, let it be intact. The bedtime or the meal time, let it be set, so that they are into some kind of loose normal at least. Collaborate with your child to come up with a loose schedule. This schedule, I think I'll discuss more when I talk about the teachers taking it up.
Yes, ma'am, that is what I wanted to come. That how can
I'm coming
this,
to the teachers.
Yeah,
just
teachers,
quickly, there are
please,
two more
please.
points. Then find fun ways to maintain contact with individuals your child has separated from. They are separated from all their relatives, maybe it be grandparents, aunts, uncles, cousins, everyone. So they are lost from there. So at least try of some means like a video conference or a talk every week, or just a small note to them in a postcard or something like that. Encourage physical activity. This is also very important, because they are mostly indoors. They don't even peep outside. We are keeping them inside. So physical activity is reduced. I would tell that they have to see that there is some kind of physical activity which is introduced. Yeah, then I think we'll move on to the teachers, Kriti. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think that is all for today, and this information is very relevant to these days what we are facing in this pandemic time. And I really thank you to both the guests, Professor Rama Madam and our practicing counselor Ms. N. Harini, for joining us for this SAHYOG session today. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you, Kriti, and namaskar once again.
And thanks to all the audience.
Yes, thank you, ma'am. Thanks. So, viewers, stay connected to us. Keep on listening to these SAHYOG sessions as they help in mental well-being of our children and adolescents. Thank you. That's it for now. Namaskar.